Alright, I already did this, man, but we're gonna do it again, I guess.
Brother Elrich, awaken.
Alright, we're playing as Brother Elrich. Here we go. Where are we? Let's see where we're at. Okay. The hours of the day.
The abbess waiting.
Okay, what did I just learn? Alright, here we go. The days and nights of the monastic community were divided into 7 or 8 sequences called canonical hours, or simply hours. Okay. The hours served to organize the day around prayer and to mark the completion of various tasks. The hours were markers of time that gave rhythm to the whole day. The schedule was regularly punctuated by divine services, moments of community prayer, and sacred celebrations. The hours were divided between daytime and nighttime. The nightly hours were the vigils, or midnight, the matins and lauds, dawn. They were followed by prime, terce, sext, and none, or the first, third, sixth, and ninth hours of the day. Finally, the day ended with the vespers, the evening, and compline, sunset, whatever. I don't really care to know all those details. Initially, each monastery would have followed their own version of the hours, abiding by the rules set by their founders. In the mid-10th century, several monasteries and cathedrals adopted the rule of Saint Benedict, standardizing the hours across southern England. Okay, let me share this out. Make sure my microphone is on. It is on. Okay. It's a live virtual study. Much later in the Middle Ages, the hours became more accessible to people outside the clergy. A book of hours such as this would contain devotional psalms and prayers. In this copy of the Book of Hours, each hour was associated with an important biblical event, often from the life of the Virgin Mary. One can see her here receiving the news that she would be the mother of Jesus Christ. Alright, so we got here is the Annunciation from the hours of Jeanne d'Evreux, Queen of France, by Jean Pucelle, circa 1324 to 1328. This is in the Metropolitan Museum of Art. So this is Mary receiving the news that she's going to be the mother of Jesus Christ. And this is the angel, okay. The Virgin Mary, okay, this is Virgin Mary. Okay, look, we getting into it, man. Shouts out to that right there. Let me see if I can find this and drop it in the chat real quick. What's it called? The Annunciation. The Annunciation. Jean d'Evreux. Okay, I found it. Here it is right here. Can put that into the chat. Start doing these information lives again. There we go. There we go. So that's there. Alright, Brother Elrich.
I know the journey was hard on you, so I'll let you sleep through the dawn prayer.
Good morning,
Oh,
Abbess.
they have dawn prayer.
Thank you.
Now, the sun is rising. You must not miss prime.
I appreciate the reprieve and the awakening.
Call it a weakness. Your father's name will be a stone around your neck in Ealing. You've a difficult path ahead of you, I'm afraid.
Yes, Abbess.
Well, there's nothing to be done about it. Better you prove yourself early than risk becoming the subject of gossip.
I will, Abbess.
You may break your fast in the kitchen with the others once your prayers are concluded. We don't frown on piety here, brother. Should you wish to stay at chapel to pray to the Lord once your duties are concluded, you may be assured that food will be available to you, as long as you go to the kitchen before terce.
That's mid-morning?
Let me see if I can change this title to include monastic life. So this is monastic life in Anglo-Saxon Britain. This is where we are. Alright, this is called Eli or Eli, a monastery for all. Eli was among the monasteries that welcomed both men and women. Eli's founder was determined to offer retreat to anyone, no matter their gender, who wanted to take up the religious life. See, and this is the thing I did learn in school. Retreats are very important. You know, you go to retreat to do your consolation and your desolation. You know, you try to better your life, you know, get away, detach, no phones. The founder of Abbess of Ely was Queen Ethelred of Northumbria. Okay, wow, okay. She was also known as Etheldreda, Audrey, or Etheldreda. She passed away in the year 679 and was buried in a simple wooden coffin. Years later, the coffin was opened so her remains could be moved to a new marble sarcophagus. According to legend, those who peered into her grave met with shock, for despite having been dead for years, Ethelred's body showed not a single sign of decay. The incredible preservation of her body was seen as a miracle, and Ethelred was declared a saint. This illuminated manuscript highlights her sacred status through the use of gold. Gold, seen here in Saint Ethelthred's robes, frame, and more, symbolize sanctity, importance, and direct connection to God. Word. Hold on, I gotta finish that. We gotta actually look at it. So this is a miniature of Saint Ethelred from the Benedictional of Saint Ethelred. Alright, we're gonna put that in the chat too. Get these virtual tours. This is in the British Library. Okay, miniature of Saint Ethelred. Shouts out to the church, man. They done destroyed the church. They done destroyed the church. Shouts out to the church, man. We all one. If you Abrahamic, we all one. Whether you go to church, whether you go to the mosque, it don't matter. We all one. We all one. What's this right here? Okay. I want y'all to keep that in mind. We all one. But we're going to get all these discoveries. We're getting back into the information. This is the information age. This is the round table game. Oh, we going into science, huh? We're going into science. Telling time. People in the early Middle Ages understood time very differently than they do today. Some medieval scholars saw time as a creation of God. Time also gave rhythm and structure to people's lives. So what we got here, this is a diagram showing how to do finger counting. Oh wow, how to count with your fingers. This is from the 11th/12th century. British Library, London, United Kingdom. According to the Venerable Bede, the Latin word for time, tempus, came from the verb temperamentum, measure. The origins of the word suggest that time and measurement are closely linked, and that time was measurable in the Middle Ages. The reasons for measuring time back then are not the same as society's reasons today. Hours and minutes were not used to calculate how much time was needed to accomplish a task. The schedule of the day was mostly determined by the course of the sun in the sky. However, measuring time was very important when it came to religious holidays. Medieval scholars would rack their brains trying to calculate when to celebrate Easter. Determining the date of such a holy day was a very complex process and required a meticulous understanding of time measurement and arithmetic. So I'm almost wondering, how do they accurately determine time. This is another problem we got to address. When we start to put dates in history, if these people, I'm not saying they represent all people, but if these people could hardly tell time, how do you establish time to work with to begin with? And whose basis are we using? And then how do we know to trust the people that we're using to tell us what time this was, or what time this was, what year this was? How did they make mathematical and astronomical calculations without a calculator? By counting up to 9,999 on one's fingers, as illustrated in this manuscript. So that's another good topic when we get into time. Alright, here we go. What we got over here? So this is the scriptorium. I just unlocked King Alfred. Hold on. So we're going to learn about King Alfred in a second. But the Latin word scriptorium described the room where monks and nuns copied and created manuscripts. Over time, it would become one of the most important places in the monastery. So what we got here? We got the evangelist Matthew writing at a desk with his symbol, a winged man in the upper right holding a scroll. Okay, I'm getting a good look at this image. Okay, 1012 to 1023 AD. Alright, let's read about the scriptorium. In the scriptorium, surrounded by parchments and quills, monks and nuns, known as scribes, worked by the sweat of their brow to create, copy, and illuminate text. Most of these works were written in Latin, but some were in Old English. Not all monks and nuns worked as scribes. While all of them were taught to read and write as part of their monastic education, only the most gifted and meticulous went on to work in the scriptorium. The monk who created this image of Saint Matthew at his desk was called Edwig Bassan. He was chosen to be a scribe because of his talent and precision as a writer. Edwig's portrait of St. Matthew depicts some aspects of what scribe's working environment could be, with the chair and the ink pot at the corner of his desk. Alright. So I think if we walk in here, this is the actual hold on. This is the monastery here. So we could see, we got a nice panoramic view of the monastic life in Anglo-Saxon Britain. Alright, here we go. What's this? The four humors. The theory of the four humors dates back to classical Greece. It holds that the human body is made from four elements: air, fire, water, and earth. Each has its own associated bodily fluid, or humor, which can shape one's personality. What? Alright, we're gonna have to look into this, bro. This is medieval and ancient science. Alright, the four humors. The humor blood was connected to the element air. Blood was thought to control someone's happiness and cheerfulness. Yellow bile was connected to fire. It drove a person's anger and impulsiveness. Black bile was connected to earth. It brought out melancholy and anxiety. Last but not least, phlegm, connected to water, was responsible for self-control and apathy. Huh? A person's humor could influence their mood and behavior. Sad all the time, they might have too much black bile. Angry at the slightest thing, too much yellow bile. The theory of the four humors shows how medieval scholars saw the world as deeply interconnected. As seen in this 15th century diagram, these thinkers understood humans to be a microcosm of the entire universe. Every element in existence could be observed within a single human being. That's tough. I like that. These medieval sciences, you know? What if we're so far gone? What if they were right about some of this stuff? And now we saying they wrong. A late medieval pictorial representation of the microcosmic man according to the ancient Greco-Roman and Christian literature. That's a microcosmic man. Let's find it. The microcosmic man. Where is this? 15th century. 15th century microcosmic man. Alright, I see the Vitruvian man. Oh, the Vitruvian man is okay, Leonardo da Vinci. We're gonna have to go into that too. But that's alright. I can't find it right now. That's all good. You know what? Let me share the Vitruvian man, because that's still an interesting topic. Might have to do a live on that. Alright, so let's see what else can we. Well, this is the monastery here. We get a quick look. You know what it looks like inside the church and the altar and so forth. So this is Brother Elrich right here. He's a monk. Alright, medieval Christian medicine. Dang, who else do it like the RTG? We go into medieval Islamic and medieval Christian. We do both, man. We do both. We don't just do one, we do both. So medicine consisted of observing a patient's symptoms and deciding how to treat them. When seeking to heal disease, people look to both herbal and supernatural remedies. So this image here is from the 12th century, and I love the art. You gotta love the art, man. You know, they're giving you a perspective, a valid perspective. A sick man being healed while praying at Cuthbert's tomb. 12th century, British Library, London, United Kingdom. I'm going over there. So UK, I'm on my way. I'm gonna chill with the Brits. I'll go chill with the Welsh in the west. I'll go chill with the Scots in the north. Or I'll cross that water and go chill with the Irish. But we going over there. They saying, shouts out to the ancestry saying I got 1% Irish. I'm like, who is Irish? Who the fuck was the Irish? I'm gonna find out who that was. Word. If I want to, I can investigate that ASAP. We gonna find out who the Irish was. Let me look at my DNA real quick. Let me look at it real quick, man. They say I had 1% Irish, man. And some other European place. Next to nothing. So, let me see. Who was it? It was Ireland and goddamn Sweden. It was Ireland and Sweden. See, I gotta do the ancestral region by parent. Oh, they giving me the accent now? Here we go. They gave me access again. So now I'm gonna screenshot this, because I could see on which side is what. So the Irish is actually on my father's side and the Swedish. My mother didn't give me no European outside of the Portuguese, and I already know that. That's actually the most genetic makeup she gave me, was Portuguese and Senegalese DNA. 12% on the Portugal. Wow. So, okay, I know what side. So inheritance is random. Region may be passed down unevenly or not at all. That's true. But this is my genetic makeup. So I can see what's what. That's what's up. Their halves, your whole. This information comes from your results, not from testing your parents. You inherited half of their DNA. So I would have to have my parents take a test to learn more. Alright, let's get back into this information, man. I'm having a good time. Shouts out to the RTG, man. We're gonna get it popping again. Let's go. Let me read this real quick though. Early medieval people believed demons and elves were to blame for some diseases and would seek supernatural cures for them. In some cases, ailing patients would be prescribed a religious remedy. They would be encouraged to fast, pray, or go on a pilgrimage, a religious journey. The pilgrim in this illustration has traveled to the tomb of a saint in the hope of being healed. One could also seek help from the saints, holy figures marked by their closeness to God. It was believed that saints could grant miracles and heal the sick. Christians could seek out something a saint had worn or touched, add it to a mixture, drink it, and hope that the saint's miraculous powers would do the trick. Okay, I understand how they thought, you know. I see the medieval Christian thought. What's this over here? See why we play these games, man.
As the monastery of Ely had been destroyed, level designers and artists had to draw their inspiration elsewhere. More specifically, from the Saint-Martin du Canigou Abbey in France. Despite the construction being 2 centuries older than AC Valhalla's time period, it offered interesting architecture for the players to enjoy. Atop a hill for great scenery, a cloister to clear the perspective, and the bell tower to provide an iconic viewpoint. Finally, an underground tunnel was added, a unique feat perfect for a surprise attack. But some things remain accurate. Several eels were placed in the waters circling the monastery, a nod to the feature that gave it its name.
Okay, so it's inspired by the French architecture. Even though the French architecture is a little bit older, it's because the originals were, I guess they're not standing anymore, so I'll height them. We'll get to these guys. We'll get to them. So raiding the monasteries. The main goal of Viking raiders was to make a quick profit. Members of the clergy maintained that the monasteries were the Vikings' favorite targets. But did the Vikings truly single out the monasteries for attacks? Medieval Scandinavians may not have seen their attacks on monasteries as different from any other raid. New in town and unfamiliar with Christian institutions, the Vikings might not have been able to tell a monastery apart from any other building. I don't believe that. They had to learn. You know what I mean? Like, of course they're gonna figure it out. There's another reason the monasteries might have tempted the Vikings, their location. As pictured here, monasteries like Lindisfarne were often built close to waterways. Much to the horror of monks and nuns, this left them very exposed to Viking raiders who traveled by boat. Yep. So a drone view of the site of the Abbey of Lindisfarne with later ruins in England. Okay, so we can still see some of it still standing. That's crazy. I wonder if this was if this is at all a reconstruction or if this is an original. But either way, that's true. Look, right on the coast. So of course them Vikings, they're gonna come down and pillage. And the wealth, I'm pretty sure it was with the church. Definitely was with the church. So we got half of the discovery sites already. There's still one more that's pretty close by, so we're gonna get this one, then continue the story. So it's the Isle of Ely, not Eli. The Isle of Ely. There we go. So parchment made to last. parchment, a writing material, was made by soaking, scraping, and drying animal skins into a flexible, resistant sheet. While paper falls apart over time in colder climates, parchment can endure for centuries. So we got here a depiction of 2 steps of manuscript production from the 12th century. This is in Germany, Bamberg, Germany. So parchment was made to last so that its content could be carried from generation to generation. This quality was recognized in the Viking Age. In 733 CE, King Ethelbald of the Mercians praised the endurance of writing. In a charter to Bishop Ealdwulf, he wrote, "Whatever gifts men give with their words, if the gifts are to endure, they should be recounted and supported with written letters." Ethelbald and others recognized that the written word would be a valuable record for people, places, and events whose memories would otherwise fade. Because of this understanding, modern historians have been able to study many century-old manuscripts like the one seen here. Okay. Good information, man. This is good information. We learning the medieval life. Dang, there's another one right here. We're going to get all of these. All this information. So we did medieval Islamic history in Baghdad. Now we're doing medieval Christian history in Western Europe and Britain. Oh shit. This is crazy. Look at them. Shouts out to the harmonizers singing the hymns. Shouts out to the church, man. Shouts out to the church. Y'all niggas need to repent. Alright, church testimonies, religion and magic. Here we go. Priests, monks, and nuns who survived Norse raids recorded their experiences on parchment. Their moving testimonies would shape later generations' understanding of the Vikings, but should be read with a critical eye. So we got an artistic map here of England showing the principal ecclesiastical centers that preserved pre-Norman conquest manuscripts before the 16th century. So pre-Norman conquest manuscripts before the 16th century. So we see these blue dots showing the ecclesiastical centers. Hold on. So at the time of the Vikings, not many people could read and write. Many of those who could were church officials. Their writings were created and kept in the monasteries. Most of the pre-conquest English manuscripts that survive to this day were preserved during the Middle Ages in a handful of churches shown on the map. Shouts out to the church, man. The church did a lot. You know, it did a lot for society, bruh. It is what it is. They did. Alright. Because the clergy's writings were preserved, the church's side of the story endured and dominated the historical narrative. The church portrayed the Vikings as bloodthirsty pagan brutes, and this image still prevails today. But bias and political motives may have helped to shape the church's records of this era. The Vikings were pagan or non-Christian, and the church disliked and often demonized pagans. The Vikings, who would raid monasteries, were a hated threat to the church's wealth and the safety of its people. Furthermore, by portraying the Vikings as ruthless murderers, the church helped to drum up resistance to the invaders. The testimonies of clergymen could be helpful for Anglo-Saxon leaders fighting the Vikings. The more bad publicity they gave the enemy, the more effective propaganda it would be. And we still see that today. Trump called it fake news. Trump call it fake news. Look, we in a monastery, man. Look at the monks. Look at the friars and shit with their bald heads on top. Shouts out to the brothers, man. We gotta get back to religion, man. We gotta get back to religion, bro. God save us. God save us all, man. Shit, I might go to church, man. Alright, relics and saints. A relic is an object considered sacred because of its connection to a saint, a holy person close to God. A relic could be something the saint had owned or touched. It could also be their finger, their skull, or even their tongue. The Winchester Reliquary. This is between 800 and 920 in the Winchester Museum in the United Kingdom. Pretty sure that's in Britain. So let's read it. According to the church, a saint's connection with God granted them miraculous powers. It was thought that they could help answer prayers, heal the sick, and advocate for the faithful on earth. Early medieval churches encouraged worshippers to believe that relics helped to access the saint's power. Christian pilgrims traveled far and wide to see and touch the sacred objects, hoping for miracles, filing the churches, and bringing business to the town. The practice of revering and petitioning saints and their relics was known as the cult of saints. Because of their popularity, relics were placed in special containers to protect them from wear and tear. These were called reliquaries, as seen in this image. They were often made from precious materials. The most important and sacred relics would be held in a church, where the clergy controlled who could visit them. While the Discovery Tour wished to depict the value and sanctity attributed to a relic, the journey of the Winchester reliquary in our game is fictitious. Okay. Yeah, some of the game is based on history. Some of it is mirrored after history. You know? We locked in, man. I'm getting a good session in. Let's go. The art of illumination. Shouts out to the church, because the church with these panels, they did an amazing job with this. Ecclesiastics, or members of the church, believed that decoration highlighted the value of a written text. Illumination, or the inclusion of splendid and complex paints, was reserved for the most special and important manuscripts. So right here we got the carpet page from the Lindisfarne Gospels, the 8th century. So we see the illumination here, just the British Library in London. It says, creating a book was a team effort. Many talented illuminators might take part in decorating a codex or book with stunning paints and illustrations. Some would paint letters in rich colors and gild them with golden leaves. Others would fill the margins with beautiful patterns that framed and embellished the text. Sometimes there were no words on the page at all, only colorful illustrations as seen in this 8th century manuscript. That wasn't really nothing. We got another one over here. We're getting all this information. Let's get up out of here. So we are on tour with Brother Elrich right now, y'all. If you don't know now, you know. We are in medieval Britain, Anglo-Saxon Britain. Alright. So apparently there's something down here. So let's see what it is. Alright, here we go. This looks like a garden over here. So a life of prayer. We gotta get back to religion, y'all. We gotta get back to the church. We gotta get back to God. You know what I'm saying? We gotta get back to that as a society. A life of prayer. The life of a monk or a nun was all about prayer. They would gather many times a day to sing and celebrate the glory of God. But it wasn't all songs and contemplation. there was also hard work involved. Work in the fields, chopping trees, and weaving textiles and gardening were all in a day's work for a monk or a nun. Some even kept bees, as seen in this illustration. These tasks were a form of prayer. Hard work was a way to commune with God, but keeping the monks and nuns busy wasn't just to teach them humility or self-sufficiency. It was a way to keep them out of trouble. Okay, so they were keeping the nuns and the monks busy. So right here is a man surrounded by bees near their hive. 1175 to 1200 CE. This is in the British Library, London. All right, that was interesting. That was interesting. We may as well do the whole tour. We're gonna do the whole discovery right now. Get all this new information. Learn about the church, the monastic life, medieval Britain, Anglo-Saxon Britain. We gotta get back to the information, y'all. We don't know everything. There's still a lot to learn. There's still a lot to learn. Stay on your studies. Let's go. I'm sorry about that. I got distracted. So I'm gonna follow the sister. She's gonna take me to where I need to go. Alright, hold on. Let me deviate real quick, sis. What? Paid to stare at a wall all day, anyone's dream job.
Photogrammetry isn't just a very hard word to say. It's also an innovative technique for in-game textures. Determined to illustrate accurate surfaces, the graphics team travelled to England to capture every inch of stone walls and pavements, sometimes for 12 hours straight. A 3-metre wall would take 250 pictures, stitched together by specialised software. The final result is a 3D file with colours and depths, designed into tileable textures. These textures are then used by level artists and modelers to add onto buildings. To push the realism further, the graphics team also added uneven silhouettes with protruding stones, slate angles and damaged areas.
Okay. Shouts out to the graphics team, man. Shouts out to them boys, man, putting in that work. Word. I'm right here, sis. Why are you taking me over here? I'm trying to go this way. Be patient with you though, sis. What you got? I've seen this already.
I must not miss Prime.
What is an Anglo-Saxon? I love this right here. This is a beautiful, beautiful study question. What is an Anglo-Saxon? Now, I've been studying, so I think I pretty much know, but here we go. It says some sources allege that the Saxons, Angles, and Jutes were the 3 Germanic tribes who, during the 5th and 6th centuries, migrated to the ancient Roman provinces of Britannia, modern-day England, southern Scotland, and eastern Wales. Okay, what did I want to touch on here? The time period. So they got here maybe 200 to 300 years before the Vikings got there. The Scandinavians, basically. Alright, let's go in. You know, y'all really should be in here getting this information, man. If y'all not getting this information, you're missing out on good information. Come on, y'all. Hit the like button, too. Come on. Alright, where we at? So that's 3 weeks ago, 2 weeks ago. Okay, ancient Greek maps. History of Micmac. Okay. I see where I left off. Yeah. Okay, let's get into this right here. Who are the Anglo-Saxons? It was once common in academia to group these peoples under the umbrella term Anglo-Saxons. Now, many prefer to name tribes based on where they lived. like West Saxons, Mercians, etc. The term Anglo-Saxon is flawed. It creates the illusion that there was some sense of common ethnicity between the German migrants when that wasn't necessarily the case. The map represents the early medieval Isle of Britain. Each color area corresponds with a different group of people. So let's look at the map, showing the different ethnic territories and the main Anglo-Saxon kingdoms. Okay, we know this over here is Ireland. We're going to break this down. Ireland to the left, Scotland, or the Isle of Skye, or Scotland to the north. Wales is to the west. And then here on the middle and eastern portion is Britain. So let's read this. In yellow, which is the north, is the southern part of the territory of the Scots and the Picts. So the Picts, I believe, are they Irish? I can't remember. In blue, the lands inhabited by the Welsh. So we see that here, the Welsh had this portion. So we got the Scottish and the Picts up here in southern Scotland. We got the Welsh in blue. In red, the territory settled by the Saxons, Angles, and Jutes, etc. Each crown represents a major kingdom, although there were at one time more English-speaking kingdoms. Northumbria, Mercia, East Anglia, Essex, Kent, Sussex, Wessex. Good information.
These scriptures are there as a guide, my son. When reading them,
Shit, I'm about
we
to
must
pray with these
listen.
people. What is the monastic prayer? It consists primarily of psalms, supplemented by hymns, readings, and other prayers and antiphons, prayed at fixed prayer times. Together with the Mass, it constitutes the official public prayer life of the Church. The liturgy of the hours also forms the basis of prayer within Christian monasticism. The liturgy of the hours. The liturgy of the hours, Latin, liturgia orarum, or divine office, officium divinum, or work of God, opus Dei, or canonical hours, often referred to as the breviary, is the official set of prayers marking the hours of each day and sanctifying the day with prayer. Okay. Canonical hours. In the practice of Christianity, canonical hours mark the divisions of the day in terms of fixed times of prayer at regular intervals.
Pater noster, qui es in caelis, sanctificetur nomen tuum. Adveniat regnum tuum. Fiat voluntas tua, sicut in caelo et in terra. Panem nostrum quotidianum da nobis hodie, et dimitti nobis debita nostra, sicut et nos dimittimus debitoribus nostris.
We praying.
Et ne nos inducas in tentationem, sed libera nos a malo. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Shouts out to the church, man. We got to go to the kitchen. We're going to break our fast. It's about that time to break the fast. What's this over here? Oh, we did this already. All right, y'all. We got to go to the kitchen. It's time to break fast. Young nigga hungry. Nigga got to eat. Let's go, gang. Hold on. Let's see what this is over here.
And there she was an abbess, and then
Right,
used to wear woolen
This is
garments.
called a strict
And she
diet.
rarely bathed in hot water except before Easter,
Damn,
before
can
the
they stop talking for a second?
and before the day of Christ's
Bro, can you stop talking, nigga?
And during the day,
Let me just
she
do this
rarely
shit
had a
real
meal
quick,
more
man.
than once a day. And from the time of matins, she stayed in church.
Stop talking, bro.
Pray.
Damn. Let's eat, man. These niggas, they talking too much. We're gonna break the fast. Shit, I want to become a monk, nigga. Come on, bro. You coughing all over the food. This nigga coughing
Are you
all
well,
over the
Brother
food,
Oswin?
bro.
We must have silence at the
Come on, bro.
Lord's
Chill with
table.
that shit.
Brother! Take him to the
Alright, he done passed the hell out. Alright, monastery is a quiet place. Monastic life involved frequent introspection. There it is, right there. Or self-questioning to understand the mysteries of God. Monks and nuns deepened their beliefs through meditation, labor, and reading scripture. Ideally, these acts were done in silence. Yep. See, that's why I'm a mixture, man. Like, I got the Catholic background and the Islamic updated information, bro. Like, come on, that's cold right there. What's this? This is in Latin. It says details on common expressions in monastic sign language. It's either Latin or Old English. Is this Old English? No, that looked like Latin. Pinum, Ipam, Handam. Still, there are strong indications that early medieval monasteries were not always as silent or as calm as they should have been. The central social role that monastic houses played in local affairs meant that they received a steady influx of visitors and their noise. However, this did not mean that absolute silence was unattainable. To avoid breaking silence or disrupting a mandatory activity such as a reading during a meal, 10th century monks and nuns developed a sign language. This was known as the monastery's indicia, something like that, or the monastic signs. Alright, we gotta look that up. The monastic signs. Monastic signs indicia. Monastic sign language, yep. Y'all ain't never heard of the monastic sign languages. You heard now, though. Let me drop this. There it is. Boom. Alright, however, this did not mean that absolute silence was unattainable. To avoid breaking the silence or disrupting a mandatory activity such as a reading during a meal, 10th century monks and nuns developed a sign language. This was known as the monasterials indicia, or the monastic signs. This sign language made it possible to maintain a complex discussion without disturbing the sacred silence of the monastery. Here is an excerpt from a manuscript explaining how to ask for soap using the monastery's indicia by rubbing one's hands together. Okay, so that's going into the sign language. I didn't know that. Look, a strict diet. Fasting and prayer were thought to purify the clergy and to strengthen their will against demonic temptation. Even when they were not fasting, monks and nuns would have been instructed to keep to a strict diet. While not much is known about their food habits in the 9th century, scholars can make some educated guesses based on what the 10th century clergy were eating. It is likely that monks and nuns were mostly vegetarian. Meat or fish would only be eaten on special occasions. For example, a feast like the one illustrated here. For the sake of self-denial, the clergy would have been allowed only 1 or 2 meals a day. So this is a feast illustrated in a manuscript from the 11th century in the British Library, London, UK. It look like they got bread. This look like a cookie, but it's probably bread, libations. That could be fish right here. Okay.
Hear of your defiance.
Alright, what happened to this dude's body, man? Let's pick him up. We got carry this dude. This dude done. Brother
Tell me,
Oswin,
Oswin.
come on, bro.
Where does it hurt?
Everywhere, brother. It's like there's fire in my veins.
I will find a
on,
way to
brother
ease your
Oswin.
pain. I promise.
Brother Oswin, what did you eat? You got food poisoning, bro. I'm glad it was you and not me, though. Shit. Come on, bro. You crying and shit. Calm down.
I must find the monk in charge. Father Bertwald, was it?
Hold on. We gotta go get this information over here. We're having a good session, so let's get the rest of this information, then we'll continue that. And since I figured this out, we got the military post right here. So these are the Saxons, y'all. Wait, who's this? In green? I thought they wear red. Let me see what's going on. Monasteries, many roles. Early medieval monasteries were far more than just religious centers. Monasteries played a major role in the economic, political, and social fabric of medieval society. Here we go. So this is a visualization of pre-Viking age Lindisfarne made by Jean-Claude Golvin. So this what it would have looked like before the Vikings ransacked and pillaged the monasteries. So this is Lindisfarne. Alright. So it says monasteries served many purposes and needs. Pilgrims and other visitors would arrive seeking spiritual guidance, medicine and education, and more. As seen in this image, monasteries could grow to great sizes to meet their community's needs. Monasteries were also among the biggest local landowners, and by extension, the biggest locals employers in a given territory. Because they controlled people's lands and livelihoods, monasteries held immense social power and could help shape the political landscape. The authority and influence of the monasteries made them helpful meeting sites for other powerful elites. Local aristocracy and even royalty would gather at monastic centers to discuss politics. These nobles would often be joined by their entourage, whose presence offered its own set of challenges to their hosts. Not only did the monasteries have to provide food for all of these guests, a huge undertaking, they also had to take care that their own monks and nuns would not be tempted to sinfulness by the presence of so many worldly visitors. Oh, this sounds like, what's those people over there in Utah? What's those people called over there in Utah? Damn. Let me see. And y'all, there's 4 people watching, and ain't none of y'all gonna tell me what I'm thinking of, and y'all hear me. That's what I'm talking about. Y'all ungrateful as hell, man. Shit. Utah. What are those people called, man? Let me see. Didn't Jimmy Fredette go to one of those type of schools? Where did he go to school? BYU. Let me see. BYU. Okay. Mormon. Am I thinking that's what I'm thinking of? The Mormons? And y'all niggas in the chat didn't even say nothing. Y'all niggas ain't shit. Y'all niggas ain't shit. Alright. So we almost got all the discovery sites. I got one more. So we gotta find that last one. Where's it at? There it is, over here. I found it. Y'all see why I be on the game and why I'm smarter than all these niggas. Like, my mind don't work the way the average nigga mind work, man. Damn, we about to troop it to get to this shit. Let's go get this shit. Why they got this nigga going all the way out here? There we go. Magic and medicine. So we've been rocking out for an hour getting this information. Here we go. Magic and medicine, religion and magic. The church considered magical beliefs pagan and evil. And, well, they had some, well, I'm seeing magical beliefs in the rituals that the church is doing. So they being hypocrites. Alright, anyway, the church considered magical beliefs pagan and evil and forbade their practice. However, monks and nuns still believed in magical creatures like elves, and these beliefs continue to influence Christian medicine. See what I'm saying? Look, even the game pointed out they're being hypocrites. What's this? A remedy against Fion's Costungum, 10th century. Bald's Leech Book, a 10th century medical book, shows how magical beliefs endured in the world of medicine. The book included remedies against sickness caused by elves, goblins, or the devil himself. If a person was suffering from elf disease, they felt a pain as though they had been shot. According to some, this was because they had been shot with an elven arrow. That's funny. The book also included suggestions to fend off attacks by a more canonical Christian enemy, the devil. In this page, the Leech Book suggests a remedy against all Fion's Costungum, all temptations of the devil. Okay, so we completed the Grantbridgeshire Discovery Tour, man. So we got 12 more learnings to unlock. Alright. We got 12 more. Look, we go into the geography. We know up here, Northumbria. Alright. Mercia in the center, East Anglia on the east, Wessex is in the south. So those, they call it the Heptarchy and whatever. There's probably one more I missed. You know, so these are the kingdoms, the major kingdoms at this time, at this particular time. Oh, we could go into some of this, yeah. That's Avor's longship. Yeah, why not? Hold on. Let's close these down real quick. We're gonna let these play out to end the live. How to resurrect 1,000-year board game to take a leap of faith. Okay, I read that one. Scandinavia. Here we go. No, I don't want to do England.
To replicate England's diverse flora was no small feat. The developers wanted it to be accurate and help players navigate the map. First, the world design team created a season map. England was divided into 4 areas, each allocated a season. Each season had its own variety of vegetation, from grass to trees, and its own humidity layer, which helped determine the type of soil in each area, lush, dry, or wetland. With these in hand,
hit the damn like
level
button,
artists and designers could implement the right type of flora in the world and create different landscapes using rocks and trees. Therefore, one region could have diverse but coherent scenery, engaging players in exploring the map meticulously. To replicate England's diverse...
Oh, okay. Immersion.
Music is at the core of AC Valhalla's experience, defining territories and moods. To create an acoustic dichotomy between Norsemen and Angles, Norway's music borrows sounds from rituals and daily life, while England's music revolves more around the church. In total, it's 5 hours of music composed through the collaboration of Jesper Kudd, Sarah Schachner, and Einar Selvik. But the
Shouts out to
music
them.
doesn't stop there. To the uncontrollable delight of AC Black Flag fans, sea shanties were also added to AC Valhalla. They're sung.
Alright, shouts out to them. Shouts out to them. Let's go into some more learning, man. I'm not done yet. I'm not done yet, man. We went through all of these. Yep, I remember Christianization. Yeah. We getting right back into this. We're gonna, yeah, here we go. I got all the myths and legends unlocked. So we know their mythology, of the Vikings at least. Okay, cool. We could close down this book. Science. Okay, we got, I went through these. Okay, parchment. I remember that. But the one they probably used most was a cargo ship, the ocean-going trader, sometimes called the Nor. Okay, we're not doing this right now. We got law and justice. You know I love law and justice. So we did that. The art of illumination. The thing or assembly was an assembly of Norse freemen gathered to discuss politics, war, and trade. Okay, I read this, but it's been a while. I don't want to talk about the Norse right now. I want to talk about the church. I just want to focus on the church right now. We did the scriptorium already. Old English literature. That's old. Stone sculptures, the figurehead, runes. Old English literature. Let me read this real quick. Old English literature. Alfred wanted to be remembered as a good Christian king. He was bothered by his people's ignorance of the Bible and felt that their poor Latin was to blame. To solve this, he pushed to have Latin classics translated into Old English. This gave rise to the birth of Old English literature. Alfred believed strongly in literacy. He wanted all young aristocrats to learn to read and write. This wasn't only for religious purposes. Being able to write and understand messages in Old English could have been useful for war and diplomacy. Old English also became a literary language for sagas and epic poems such as Beowulf, pictured here. Okay, shouts out to King Alfred. Shouts out to him. We want to focus on the church. Raiding the monasteries. Okay, I did that. Alfred's silver coins. Hold on, let's learn a little more about Alfred. A silver coin issued by Alfred in London in the 9th century. See, it looks like it's, yeah, it does say Elfreder. Elfred something at the end of that R. Elfreder something. Aelfreder. Alfred had needed more and more coins to pay the mercenary he hired to protect Wessex and to pay tributes to Norse invaders. So he got mercenaries protecting Wessex, and he's paying off the Viking Norse raiders. For reasons that are still not entirely clear, even before he defeated the Viking chieftain Guthrum, Alfred decided to make more valuable coins with higher quantities of silver. The increase in silver might have been Alfred's way of announcing a new era of prosperity for Wessex. However, a higher silver content also meant a more stable coin economy, as people could rely on the value of coins. The coins also helped to display Alfred's new wealth and power after his victory over Guthrum. See, and I want to say this. The reason I decided to go in this direction is because we have to be aware and know the history of the the so-called white man. And I started, I started a lot of stuff, but I started this. Yo, I'm sick of people hiding behind these umbrella terms such as white or black or whatever. When we talk about white people, primarily we're talking about very specific cluster of people as it pertains to American history. And if you like me, if you're from New England, you are talking about very particular groups when you use the term white. You're not talking about every person that could possibly fall under the umbrella. So I say, you know what? We're going to peel back this white word. And when you do that, you learn the people who are responsible for pretty much the modern world that we live in right now and where they came from. Now, I'm not saying that to give them credit, but I am saying that to give these niggas credit. All right? So, what's the term? With power comes great responsibility. So, we got to hold niggas responsible as well, accountable as well. And in order to do that, you can't just be saying shit like white people. No, nigga. Who the fuck is you talking about? Alright. So I read that. A Life of Prayer. Church Testimonies. Ellie. I read that. So we got one more. There's still one more in Religion and Magic. The Cross and the Hammer. And the Danelaw, some are engraved. The Danelaw is the eastern side, the Viking kingdom they established on the eastern coast. The megalith, Hamingja. Okay, I remember this too. Norse religion. Alright, so we getting through this. We're not done yet, but we getting through it. Chippenham. And then I'm gonna have to get a new game. So let's go to King Alfred. Where is he at, man? We got Odin, Hytham. King Alfred, here you are. Protected Wessex against Vikings and promoted literacy among his people. Okay. Alright, y'all, that's it. It's been a cool hour plus stream going into the history of the Anglo-Saxon Britain. You know, what is an Anglo-Saxon? We done discovered it, you know? Well, actually, we didn't quite clarify that. This was telling us that it's a misleading term, and it assumes that there was a common ethnic identity amongst them. But, you know what? Let me see if we could go into... No, hold on. In the red, territories settled by Saxons, Anglos, and Jews. So at the very least, this is your modern day British. So I do want to go into the Picts, though. Who are the Picts? Who are the Picts before I leave? I believe they're Irish people originally. Let me see if that's correct or not. It says the Picts were a group of peoples in what is now Scotland, north of the Firth of Forth in the early Middle Ages. Where they lived and details of their culture can be gleaned from early medieval texts and Pictish stones. Alright, so we see their culture. They do a lot of circular designs on their stones. Let's see where they come from. Origins. The origin myth presented in Bede's Ecclesiastical History of the English People describes the Picts as settlers from Scythia who arrived on the northern coast of Ireland by chance. Where the hell is Scythia? Hell nah, bruh. They saying Scythia is in What's this sea, man? This is above Greece and everything. So how they just magically end up over there? Bede, what the hell is you talking about, man? I don't know if I believe that they Scythians. Come on, man. Let's go back to this. And landed on the northern coast of Ireland by chance. Come on, man. Local Scotty leaders redirected them to northern Britain where they settled, taking Scotty wives. The Pictish Chronicle, repeating this story, further names the mythical founding leader, Cruithne, the Gaelic word for Pict, followed by his sons whose names corresponded. Okay. It's an origin myth. We don't really know where these people came from. At least I don't see a definitive answer right now. The area occupied by the Picts had previously been described by Roman writers and geographers as the home of the Caledoni. These Romans also used other names to refer to Britannic tribes living in the area, including Verturiones, Texali, Venetrones. Written history relating to the Picts as a people emerges in the early Middle Ages. At that time, the Gaels of Dalriada controlled what is now Argyll, as part of a kingdom straddling the sea between Britain and Ireland. Alright, y'all, we up out of here. Thanks for watching. Make sure you hit the like button. It's been a great stream. Learned a lot. And I'll be coming back soon.